This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
So I gotta say, I do think it's time for us to change our expectations for this Pistons team. I normally don't like to jump too far. Like, I don't like to jump too early to conclusions with a team. But we're like 14, 15 games into the season now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're honestly nowhere close to what I expected.
I thought you were going to start off the show on the positive note.
What's the positive note?
Ben Simmons scored 11 points for the first time in like 2 years.
I'll be honest with you. Of the things that were rolling through my head that could have been positive, that probably didn't make the top 25. And on that note, we are the Fan Report. This is episode number 180. I'm Nick, and with me is Andrew.
Hey, guys.
He's got jokes over there. You can follow us on Twitter at Real Fan Report. We are brought to you by Detroit Sports Podcast. You can follow them on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. It's not been a good start to the Pistons season. But obviously we are going to be obviously we are going to be talking some Pistons basketball today as we approach the 15-game mark. We're also going to be talking a little bit, or probably, honestly, I'm going to try to split the episode 50-50 this week between Lions and Pistons because there's a lot to say with both of them. But things have turned around quite well for the Lions. They're on a winning streak.
Yeah, last time we recorded, they had one win. Now they have three. We were coming off the Miami loss we recorded, and we both came on here and said that was basically the last straw for us with Dan Campbell, and we were out.
I was trying.
But does winning two in a row right after that change anything?
I was trying to remember, looking back before the Miami game, what I had said that the Lions need to do to get me back on this train. And I can't remember if I said they had to go 2-1 or 3-0 in the next three. And I think I said if they go 2-1.
I doubt you said 3-0.
I think I may have, because I think if I had said 2-1, I feel like I would have said they would have also needed to beat one of the Giants or the Bills, one of their other. I think the other one was the Vikings, but one of their three toughest remaining games of the year, and that was the tall task right there. You got to prove. I know I said you have to prove to me that you can beat good football teams. They still have not done that. However, Washington's 5-5 now. They're a 500 team.
This is a different Washington team, though. They are arguably better with Taylor Heineke starting.
Yes, arguably better with Taylor Heineke. They look like they're defensively, they're a little bit more healthy, too. I believe Chase Young is back for them.
Yep.
But the Lions have yet to beat a good football team. I get they've won 2 straight. They're 3-6 in the year. They are technically in the playoff hunt. So I'll answer your question here in a second, and then I'm also going to pose a question to you. Because we're kind of at a critical point in this season now where the Lions have to choose a direction. And I want to know what you want their direction to be.
Oh, okay.
But to answer your question, no, I'm not back on the Dan Campbell train yet. This was needed to get me closer to, but I'm not there yet. I'm just kind of riding the horse alongside it, still kind of slowly starting to fall behind. Because, let's be real, it wasn't exactly a coaching masterpiece against Green Bay. They won in spite of him, despite him. He did not put on a good coaching performance, and they managed to win because Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers is an absolute shit show, for a lack of better term. It's a dumpster fire.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I still believe that 2 of those interceptions were Sammy Watkins running the wrong route.
It very possibly could be.
You cannot convince me that Aaron Rodgers just threw it to nobody.
Right.
But no, I agree with you. I am definitely not back on with Dan Campbell. I acknowledge that, this is a positive development. Winning 2 on the road with one of them being in the 2 in a row, one being on the road, both against division rivals. Definitely a positive development. But
Let's not get too excited here, though. Let's understand
go
who
big
the
picture.
opponents were.
That's what I'm saying. Let's go big picture, and you look at you have 3 wins now. They are against the 3 worst teams on your schedule.
Is that actually true? Is Washington as a 500 team one of the 3 worst teams on your schedule so far?
Yeah, I believe Cowboys are above 500. I mean, I can look up the actual.
No, I actually think you're right because the Cowboys, I do believe, are well above 500. I know the Eagles are. They just picked up their first loss. The Vikings are.
Patriots are.
Apparently.
Seahawks are. Dolphins are.
Dolphins are the division leaders in that division right now in the AFC East because they just beat Buffalo. Yeah. So, yeah, they are. Wow. So, yeah. Okay. Well, the Lions' schedule's been absolutely brutal then.
It has. But, again, you beat the 3 worst teams on your schedule. Congratulations. If you want my attention, get a win against the Giants.
You know what? I'm kind of right there in lockstep with you. And this kind of goes in line with what I had said. To get my attention, to get me on board with this team, you got to beat you got to beat the good teams in this league. And those being the Bills, the Giants of the world. So if this team manages to pick up a win, and I'm not going to even say which one, but if you can manage to pick up a win either this weekend up against New York or on Thanksgiving Day against Buffalo, I'm in. At that point, I'm in.
Real quick, with Josh Allen's health in question, if on the off chance he doesn't play against the Lions in Buffalo, are you still considering that a good team that you beat?
It's still a good football team in my mind. I understand Josh Allen may not be fully healthy. I can't discredit the rest of that football team though. If
he plays, I can't, but I feel like that football team is entirely built around Josh Allen's skill set, so I think it actually puts him in a significant step back if Josh Allen.
I mean, I agree with you, but I think it's a little bit unfair to do that. Like, we put a requirement on this team, and they hit it. What else do you want them to do? You know what I mean?
That's why I was saying the Giants. I was saying beat the Giants. I mean,
that's fine. Yeah. But if they don't beat the Giants, because Giants are one of the best teams in football right now, but they go out and beat the Bills.
But I still view it as a winnable game. Like
I think the Giants are probably one of the more winnable games that they've got left, in all honesty, especially against one of the better teams. Like,
what is more winnable to you, the Giants or the Jets? What game is both are on the road?
You know, honestly, that's a good question because both teams struggle to score the football, and the Lions, obviously can score the football. The Lions just struggle defensively, which isn't the strength of the other team. Like they match up pretty decently. Like, those are both winnable games in my mind. I think they're facing the more electric talent in New York. When you have a Saquon Barkley there, that's a big factor. It's a good question.
All I'm saying is I don't want to see Dan Campbell go the rest of the way and just beat like the Jaguars and the Panthers and like the Bears again. And the Packers again and stumble his way to 7 wins, and everyone goes like, "That's a huge improvement. They got 7 wins." I'm like, yeah, but they're all
against bad teams. I 100% agree with you. Like that wouldn't be that big of an improvement in my mind. That would be enough for him to keep his job, but that wouldn't be enough for me to make me believe that he's the guy.
I feel like the playoff selection committee. I'm still waiting on a quality win.
Right, and I even think I said that of the 7 winnable games, you would need to win 6-1 in my mind. Go 6-1 in my mind to continue keeping your job. At that point, I think he would have actually done that.
Yeah,
but none of those games are quality. None of those wins would be quality at that point. You would have beaten the Packers and the Bears each twice, which are not good football teams. The Jaguars, the Panthers, not good football teams. Washington doesn't look like a very good football team. So they
just beat the Eagles?
Yeah, they're still not a good football team. There's always the one game a year where a bad football team beats the top team because it's so hard to win in this league. Like it's just a fact. I don't know. Like I would like to see this team beat good football teams. If we want to take them seriously, they're going to have to. And frankly, they have an opportunity to do that this weekend. And I really don't even want to break into the games from the past couple weeks that much. Once again, a running quarterback demolished us. That's a huge issue.
Yeah,
that's been the common.
Saw it going from a mile away. Playing FanDuel, bet on it. I mean, it's
a recurring theme that happens every year. But you know what? There are a couple things that I noticed that are positives. Kirby Joseph starting to look like a pretty solid back end safety. He made a couple of really good plays against Green Bay, and he didn't, embarrass himself against the Bears. Jeff Okudah, he has had, I'll say it, he's had a hell of a year.
Yeah.
He looks like a good corner.
He's like literally your best defensive player right now, which feels wild to say.
In my opinion. And then you look at Aiden Hutchinson, who also seemed to have a pretty solid game against the Bears as well. Your youth is starting to show itself. You have an Aiden Hutchinson who can make some plays. Yes, he makes a lot of mistakes here and there, but he's young and he's able to fix, he's able to make plays. Jeff Okudah finally looks like he's starting to show himself and looks like he's potentially going to be a good corner in this league. Kirby Joseph looks like a find. Malcolm Rodriguez looks like a steal. Granted, he's been hurt, but he's looked pretty damn solid to start the season. I'm not saying that he's going to turn into Ray Lewis 2.0, but if you get a solid linebacker that can play meaningful downs for you, and lots of them, in the 6th round, that's a steal. So we're starting to see the youth of this team come forward and take a foothold in their futures with this organization. Those are the positives that I look at. And when you asked early in the show, I thought you were going to start with the positives. That's actually what I thought you were going to say. But you threw me one of the nastiest curveballs I've ever seen. I swung and missed on that one hard.
Oh, that was fun.
But
do you think when Tracy Walker comes back, which I don't think is till next season, but when Tracy Walker comes back, one of him or Kirby Joseph can move over to the strong side?
Yes, I absolutely think that's what they'll do. Absolutely think that's what they'll do. And in all honesty, it's what they should do. You have a chance to solidify your safety duo with those two. Kirby Joseph has looked good. Tracy Walker is good. Make it happen. Make it work. Now, to go into my question here, the Lions are obviously at a pivotal point in their season and with their future. Do you want the Lions to go for this thing, knowing that there are winnable games going forward, that you could potentially sneak into a wild card spot in this conference, or play meaningful football in December? How's that? Or do you want them to just be inept? Do you want the opportunity to, knowing that the Rams pick is now better than yours right now? And Matthew Stafford is in concussion protocol. And also has, I believe, been dealing with an arm issue. The Rams are not a good football team. And they just lost Cooper Kupp long-term as he just had surgery.
Yep.
Do you want the Lions to potentially put themselves in a position where they have 2 top 10, potentially a top 5 and a top 10 pick? Do you want that to happen? Or do you want the Lions to have a late, probably, 8th or 9th pick from the Rams and a low teens, like 12 or 13, in all likelihood, for their pick? Which future do you which scenario would you rather see play out for this team?
I mean, if you're talking about specifically draft picks, it'd sound weird if I'm like, no, I'd rather pick later. But
no, but knowing that means that.
Oh, I know. But so what I'm trying to say is, in this scenario right here, where you have a second-year head coach, a lot of question marks, you have a lot of young players in this team, you're building a young defense, you have some young offensive weapons. I think it's important for both this coaching staff and these players to get some wins under their belt, because at least to me, I feel like you really risk losing the locker room entirely if you are as bad the second half of the season as you were the first half of the season.
I can kind of agree with you there, and I can see where you're coming from.
I can see tanking for a quarterback. I love Will Anderson. Don't get me wrong. I would salivate at the idea of Will Anderson, Aiden Hudson, both on our defensive line.
If I'm the number 1 overall pick, Will Anderson is my pick.
I agree. But how often do you see someone tank for a defensive end?
Never.
A defensive end is not, it's a huge thing, it's a really good thing to have on the defensive side of football, but
it's not
the
most important player on the football field besides quarterback is pass rusher.
But it's not a player like a quarterback that wins you. A quarterback can take you there. A defensive end, you still need to pair with other pieces. So all I'm saying is, outside of me seeing that quarterback that can take this team to the next level, I don't know if it's worth it to tank. And at this point, I think it's more valuable to get this team competing, because I'll risk being completely demoralized if we still suck throughout the whole year.
By getting Will Anderson, though, you have the potential to build exactly what the Broncos had when they won their Super Bowl with Peyton Manning having half an arm, which was Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware. Mm-hmm. You could potentially have the number one pass rush in all of football, which can take you there. That can take you there and has taken teams there. I.e., the Broncos with Peyton Manning and with half an arm. The dude threw like 4 yards down the field at the most. He had in the Super Bowl, I believe he threw for 140 yards. Like, he was terrible. The guy sucked.
Who was their running back that year? Was it Noshan Moreno?
I don't remember if it was Noshan or if it was it Noshan? Or was it C.J. Anderson that year?
No, I think C.J. Anderson was later than that.
Was it? Okay. Regardless.
It was Ronnie Hillman.
Ronnie Hillman. God. Mm-hmm. Again, the pass rush took him there. And
they did have a nice receiving core with Manuel Sanders and Marius Thomas.
Okay, how many yards did Peyton Manning throw for in that Super Bowl? I don't care how good of a receiving core you have. He can't throw the football.
I can tell you right now, for the season, he threw for 2,249 yards.
Wait, seriously? Oh my God!
And he threw for 9 touchdowns and 17 interceptions.
Peyton Manning?
Yep.
The year they won the Super Bowl.
The 2015, right?
We got to look into that because that's got to be the worst season to ever win a Super Bowl ever.
But both Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas had 1,000-yard seasons.
Well, yeah. Who else he throwing the ball to? So 2015, 2016.
I should say Peyton Manning only started 9 games that year.
Okay, all right. That does make a little more sense. But I think it was because of the injuries he had that year.
Yeah.
You would be accurate. I hang on. Let me confirm that. Yeah, you would be accurate. He only threw for 2,200 yards that year.
And also, let's not forget about the Broncos' secondary of Aqib Talib and Chris Harris Jr.
Right. But also,
I mean, Lord have mercy.
Yes, but also, Jeff Okudah's starting to look pretty good. I'm not going.
If you compare another corner, you might.
Yeah, but again, though, that's kind of my point with what a defense of that caliber and a pass rush of that caliber can do for a team. So. Now I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate because I agree with you with the stance of like you need wins for this coaching staff, this regime, and this locker room, especially with the youth. You need to teach them how to win in this league. So it's really tough on the psyche of a player and of a team to win 2 straight, start to think you're turning a corner, and then just go right back to losing. That's really, really debilitating to the mentals of a locker room.
And plus, you don't start turning a corner. You're looking at next year having a coaching staff overhaul, but also bringing in some top tier rookies with all that uncertainty. I mean, it's messy.
I will say that they have the pieces to kind of pad a rookie a little bit. They have a really good offensive line. They have playmakers in Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift. Like they have the pieces around what could be a young quarterback to be successful. They're going to protect that young asset. Now, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate because I do kind of agree with you. And if that Rams pick is top 10 and your pick ends up in the top 15, if you really wanted to go get somebody, you have the assets to go get him. Let's be real. 2 picks inside the top 15 is enough to move up to 3 probably. You can go get whoever you want.
So you just got to hope there's an early run on quarterbacks.
Right.
Like we're talking C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young go 1 and 2.
Right. Now, with that being said, and here's my devil's advocate ploy here. You're going into that thought process and going into next season with the understanding that you're going to have another year of Jared Goff. You're paying him $30 million. It's between 20 and 30. I can't remember. To be the helm of your offense because you're not getting a quarterback, at least not a top flight quarterback and not one that's going to be ready for you to put in there wherever you draft at that point. Unless you go up and get one, which is entirely possible with the 2 picks. But I would think that's kind of a waste at that point. And I'm personally not a believer in either Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. Like I'm straight up out on Stroud. I don't like Ohio State quarterbacks, and Bryce Young, albeit good quarterback, hasn't shown me that he can be successful.
Justin Fields isn't changing your mind in the last few weeks?
Hell no. Guy's a a running back. Look at his passing stats. That's all you need to know. I don't really want to see another year of Jared Goff. I think we've seen enough to know that he sucks. He turns the ball over more than any other quarterback in the league between interceptions thrown and fumbles over the last, I think it's 4 years now. And he's a game manager. He's a game manager who can't protect the football. You're not winning with that, and you never will. So why go through another painful year of mediocre football with a team who is now probably built around him ready to win, but he is the reason you can't. And because you decided to go out and win 7 games, you're stuck with them. So unless you can sit here and tell me, all right, we're going to find somebody else either at 8 or 12 or in the second or third round who can come out and be the future quarterback of this football team, or find one on, free agency or through a trade, what are you doing to solve the quarterback problem that you have? Because it is a glaring problem, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think you can win with Jared Goff.
Yeah.
I don't.
I agree with you, but I would also say that if you did theoretically just try to tank the rest of the year, again, the guy I'm going for is Will Anderson. I wouldn't even be aiming for a quarterback in this draft. So either way, I think Goff is still your quarterback at least through the early part of next year. Maybe you sign a free agent that eventually takes a job from him. But
with Jared Goff, I don't think you'll be bad enough to where you'll ever be in a position to take a quarterback, though. That's the problem. So let's say we move up into next year. We probably win 8 games. We win 7 this year. We win 8 next year. What do we do then? We're stuck. We're in a holding pattern. We're stuck in mediocrity with pieces that honestly are good enough to win. But because we don't have the guy under center, we can't. So what do? And, there are teams that have gone out and essentially mortgaged their future to go and get a quarterback that helps them win. The Chiefs with Pat Mahomes, the Bills with Josh Allen, all both those teams traded up to go get a quarterback. And it's worked out, obviously. Granted, Pat Mahomes, I want to say, was taken at 10. Josh Allen wasn't taken in the top 5, I don't believe. So you can find those guys outside the top 5. It's just not common.
Yeah. Just don't pull a Bears and trade up for Mr. Trubisky.
Well, no, that's not ideal. But honestly, I'll be honest with you, and here's what my real belief in what I think the Lions should do, because I think you're right. I think this is a team that needs to build the mental fortitude and some mental strength and stability here. They do need to go for it. They do need to show themselves that they can win some football games and some meaningful games in this with this regime and with this coaching staff and these players. So if they go out and win 7 games, I think you just take best player available at positions of need, which are a lot of them. And the other thing is you need more than just a quarterback too. You need lots of players. You need linebackers. You need pass rushers. You need
you need a lot.
In all honesty, you need a running back. You need defensive secondary. You need a lot. So having those 2 picks, I'm willing to just say, I got 2 in the top 15. I'm going to grab what's there, and I'm going to continue building this thing. And then come next year's draft, I probably will be willing and ready to say, all right, here's my pick this year. Here's my second round pick. Here's my first next year. I'm going to go get my quarterback, and I'm going to start winning. Because if you take a rookie quarterback, you're probably looking at a year or 2 before you're winning.
So let's say theoretically you landed somehow at the first pick, whether it be via LA or via your own pick. So you're saying in your argument right now, you would be taking Bryce Young over Will Anderson? No,
I personally like Will Anderson better.
Okay.
I do. I think Will Anderson's one of the best defensive pass rushers we've seen in a long time. This is he is a top pick. He would have been the top pick last year. He probably would have been one of the top picks the year prior. He is the guy. Will Anderson is my guy.
No, I agree with you.
Of the quarterbacks, it's Bryce Young. But here's the caveat, and why I think I'm okay with the Lions winning some football games here. if you tell me that the Lions were to take a quarterback in the late first or the second round and take a shot, I wouldn't be mad at you. This is the one time
I want them to take a shot.
This is the one time where I'm saying it's okay to take a quarterback outside the top 10. Because I think there could be some talent there, and I'm not willing to just, unless you tell me that like Bryce Young or CJ Stroud dropped to our pick at 8, then I'm probably going to take one of those two guys.
Yeah.
But this is a season where, you know, a Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round, even though he's 40, you know, a Michael Penix in the 3rd or 4th round, like those types of situations, you have pieces that can surround a guy like that. You potentially could upgrade the position, even though you're taking the guy in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to take a shot on a guy like that this year because we have so much draft capital at the top of the draft that it's okay.
Yeah.
And we have pieces around that are starting to turn into long-term assets. That's why I'm okay with it.
So should we take our picks for the game on Sunday?
Yeah, let's do it. Well, actually, I got one more question to pose to you, and then we can do that.
Yeah.
I want you to give me your offensive MVP and your defensive MVP through now what technically is that. Why do we only play why do we play 17 games and not 18? It drives me nuts that we don't have an actual halfway point. That's purely my OCD talking.
And it's Amon Ross, St. Brown, and Jeff Okuda.
I am 100% in lockstep with you. It is those two. 100% in lockstep.
All right, if you could put the spread in the Lions game, what would you put? Lions at Giants. Where would you put the spread at right now?
Giants minus 4.5.
It's -3. Giants -3.
That's fair. Giants can't score. Giants can't score in a brothel. So,
are you taking the Lions +3?
I'd take the Lions plus 3.5.
Yeah, I think if it gets any higher, I might take the Lions. But
give me the hook and I'm in. This is one of those games that I can see the Lions losing like 19-3 because Giants defense is good. It is quite good. And their offense is awful. Well, your offense has shown at times to not be good either.
Just
signed Bill Belichick.
If you can find a way to stop or even just contain Saquon Barkley.
If you can find a way to put 25 points up, I think you can win this game. I think you can.
All right, I want you to call your shot.
Okay.
Lions win this football game. What's the mood on this show next week?
Cautious. Excited, but cautious. And I think that's just me as a jaded Lions fan that this team always does this to me. But it's excited and optimistic, but it is cautious because, again, we are still a 4. If we win this weekend, we're still a 4-6 football team. Yeah. We're still not good.
I'm in lockstep with you because, like, what I was going to say is, like, you'd have my attention. Again, I'm not where I was coming into the season, but I was completely out after the Miami game, and you would have my attention again.
You'd get me pretty much back in at that point. You would have been winners of 3 straight. You beat a good football team in this league. You know, one of the biggest knocks against Matt Stafford while he was here in Detroit is he couldn't ever beat teams with a winning record. His record against opponents with a winning record was awful. Yep. Well, that would have been a team that you would have beat with a winning record and a strong winning record. One of the top teams in the league.
On the road.
On the road, no less, which Dan Campbell, I believe, got his first road win this past weekend.
Yeah, exactly. This would be a high-quality win, which is all I'm asking for from Dan Campbell right now.
Absolutely. 100% agree.
All right, let's move on to the Stones. They seem to not be able to stay healthy. Cade Cunningham, shin splints. He's out for at least 5
Those are
games.
such a bitch. Those hurt so bad.
And they linger.
Yes.
That's something, like, I don't know about you. In my opinion, like, please don't rush him back. Just we're not going anywhere.
You're a 3-11 basketball team.
Yeah.
And honestly,
and plus, give me the Killian Hayes trial run. Let's play him 30 minutes a night.
You know, coming into before Cade got hurt, I'll be honest with you, we had a Killian Hayes problem.
Yep.
He seemed to have lost all confidence, and he just was not playing good basketball on either end of the floor. He just wasn't useful in any of the minutes that he's playing. And because of that, his minutes were dropping.
And he started make like the one thing I'd said about Killian Hayes, like I remember I said this almost a month ago now. I was like, he might not be confident, but the one positive thing I can say about him is I know when he's on the floor, more often than not, he's not going to do something stupid.
And that started to go away.
That started happening.
Right. I was at a point where I was saying it's time to send him back to the G League, and this would be his final shot.
Yeah.
I still think he could potentially benefit from that. However, in this absence of Cade Cunningham, I think he will see more benefit in an increased workload here than he would by going to the G League and trying to get himself right.
Yeah.
If he plays, and mind you, in this short stint he has had 2 games where he's produced offensively. He then reverted right back to the norm, but he's shown a little bit of progress there.
Yeah.
I will say that part of the issues with the lack of playmaking for Killian Hayes coming off the bench has been, well, who's he making plays to?
Agreed.
So I can't really entirely fault him there, but I can fault him for his poor defensive play. But that goes to the entire basketball team, and in all honesty, is one of the biggest reasons that I'm just about ready to shoot Dwayne Casey out of a cannon.
Yeah, last night was a case in point when they played the Raptors, a heavily depleted Raptors squad. And obviously you didn't have Cade and you lost Isaiah Stewart early, but for some reason he refused to run the ball through, like to run the offense through Jaden Ivey. He just wanted Jaden Ivey to play off ball the entire time, and we were just getting our faces kicked in. A
guy who's already shown to you that he is very effective with the ball in his hands. There's a smart idea.
He's like, let's keep having Killian Hayes bring it up and have Jaden Ivey just stay in the corner. And then in the fourth quarter, he finally decided to switch it up, have Jaden Ivey bring the ball up the court. Up until that point, I'm pretty sure Bogey had brought the ball up the court more than Jaden Ivey had. But anyway, so he finally decided to switch it up, run the offense with Jaden Ivey, and voila, we started scoring points. We started getting to the free throw line, not making free throws, we started getting to the free throw line.
Yeah.
Fun fact, by the way, I heard this stat on James Edwards' podcast. The Pistons actually have the highest number of free throw attempts in the NBA.
Well, if only they could make more than half.
If only they could make them.
I am just about done with Dwayne Casey. I will say I don't want to say I'm encouraged, but I'm intrigued by his lineup changes lately, moving Sadiq to the bench, and going with Stewart at Bagley, Stewart and Bagley alongside each other.
I like.
Granted, defensively speaking, you're just a turnstile with those two as your front court. Like there's zero defensive presence on the floor at that point because it ain't gonna be Bogey, it ain't gonna be Jaden Ivey playing defense. So who's playing defense for you? Because Bagley and Stewart both very poor defensively right now. I did like that idea of bringing Sadiq off the bench. I'll be honest with you though, I think Sadiq is one of those players that thrives when he has good talent around him. And off this bench, he just doesn't. It's just not there. And it's one of the reasons I do believe he struggled in that game.
I remember when he first got in the game yesterday, he comes in, immediately hits a three. And I go, uh-oh, here comes the microwave. Oh, wait.
So one thing I also noticed, and it's something that we talked about about Sadiq Bey earlier in the season, is he going to be able to find ways to produce without the three ball, find ways to score without the three ball falling for him? And in one game, he did. And he looked really good and was able to score without the three ball falling. And the very next game, he couldn't. He couldn't get the three ball to fall, and he, I believe, put up it was a very poor night for him, just all around.
Well, that's been the question mark with Sadiq, from his rookie year. Last year was the first year we were really asking it of him, but it's, just can you... Now, he is able to make an impact on the floor without the three ball falling, but the question mark for me, at least, has been, can you still score buckets if your three ball isn't falling? Can you hit a mid-range? Can you efficiently take the ball to the rim
And even that is shown to be extremely inconsistent.
Yeah. I'm saying every now and then, I'm like, oh, there it is. And
every now and then, and that's the problem. Like, we need to see some semblance of consistency out of Saddiq Bey if we're going to hope for him to be one of the core pieces of the future of this team. Like, I'm starting to be concerned with Saddiq Bey. Yeah. I really like him as a player, but he's got to show some consistency for me. And he just hasn't been doing it at all this year.
He needs to put the headband back on.
Sure, whatever it is, do something.
Yeah. But in general, I like the idea of moving one of our starting five onto that bench unit to just infuse some life into that squad. Because stat I saw in StatMuse last week, that starting five of Cade, Jaden Ivey, Saddiq, Bogey, and Isaiah Stewart, believe it or not, and I had to fact check this,
they're actually pretty good. They're really good.
Highest scoring starting five in the NBA.
They're also probably the most scored against starting five in the NBA. But
there's that, and our bench is probably the worst bench in the NBA at this point in time.
I'll be honest with you. If it were me, this is how I would run the lineups. I would bring Saddiq back into the starting lineup. I'd have Cade and Jaden with Saddiq. I'd have Stewart at the 4.
You drop Bogey down?
I'd have Jalen Duren at the 5. I would have Bagley.
Which is something that Casey finally started to experiment with because he finally got Bagley back, so he was able to do it.
I'd have Bagley, Burks, and Bogey coming off the bench with Killian because at that point, you don't need Killian to take a single shot. Because you have Bagley down low, you have Burks in the corner, you have Bogey in the corner. He has everybody in the world to pass the ball to. All he needs to do is get some dribble penetration and find a way to make a pick and roll happen with Marvin Bagley. If you can do that, that bench unit can score. They won't play any defense, but you don't necessarily need them to.
Yeah.
And if you're able to make that work, I think this team can see some success. But I don't know. I don't know that Casey believes in Duren enough. I don't know that he believes in Killian enough. I don't know what it is. But in my opinion, I would like to see them try that out. You have legitimate sharpshooters off the bench at that point with Burks and Bogey. You have a presence down low on the offensive side of the ball with Bagley and a playmaker in Killian. Like it could work. And I'm not saying run them all at, run 2 5-man lineups. You can kind of piece them in. If you need more 3-point shooting, take Bey out, put in Bogey. Take Jaden out, put in Burks, have Cade running with those two guys. You can make things work. I'd like to see them run Bagley and Duren next to each other. Put the towers down there. Let's see that happen.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do anything to see this team have some life and try to win some basketball games.
Because when you just look at the talent in this roster, I fully believe we are, just on paper, we are better than what our record says.
On one side of the ball, yeah.
Even the I know we talked about this in a few pods ago, but Saddiq coming out of college,
yeah,
he was a good defender.
Okay, if you're talking about what the player should be, yes,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Isaiah Stewart coming out of college, he was a
Cade
good defender.
was a really good defender in college.
I am not a defensive expert. I don't know if it is Casey not putting them in a spot to succeed defensively.
I think it is.
But
I absolutely think
I just looked. This is the last year on Casey's contract.
I think in terms of Isaiah Stewart, I think he's struggling with some of the bigger bodies down low. We've seen that over the course of the years, especially when he goes up against some of the bigger guys like Joel Embiid. But in the cases of Saddiq and Cade, there's really no reason that they shouldn't be good defensively. And I don't know if it's because they're focusing so much offensively that they're just not getting enough practice reps in defensively or what it is. But I think coaching plays a huge role in that, in my opinion. So I'm ready to move on. I think Casey's done well with what he's had, and I think he's a good coach. I just don't think he's the right coach for this team. And I would like to see somebody else come in and have a shot at it. Yeah.
I need to see some fire out of this team. Right. That's what I need.
Yeah, because there are times where the team has looked kind of lackadaisical. I'm not going to lie to you. There are nights where the effort level is very poor.
Yep.
on both sides of the ball, and that you can't have, especially with a group of young players that are trying to build a mold and build a mentality. You can't afford to have that.
Yep.
Because that's how you get bad habits and selfish players.
Like, there were so many games last season where you saw Cade like get fired up, and then he starts and then you see, here's the fourth quarter takeover, and it happens. I haven't seen Cade do the whole like flex, scream at the floor thing yet this season.
The level of care seems lower than normal with this team.
Yeah,
it does, and it's all across the board in my mind. All across the board. It's not just Cade. It's not just, we don't really have any history with Jaden to go off of, but it's everybody. Nobody really seems that fired up with this team this year. And I don't know if it's because they're a 3-11 basketball team or what it is, but we need to see some fire happen with this team, and something needs to change because it ain't working right now. Now
we're about to go on a 6-game West Coast road trip here that
those tend to be
Thursday.
brutal with teams that aren't strong mentally.
Yep.
Just going to throw that out there.
At least we get to take on another team that's not strong mentally in the Lakers.
What a dumpster fire. You know what? If there is one, I would rather have our situation than theirs.
Yeah.
100 times out of 100. Like, their situation is just awful. Now, let's kind of talk a little bit more long-term big picture here. So, kind of similar situation with the Lions. Do you want to see this Pistons team really turn it around and hit the expectations that we had put forth? We said 30 wins. Do we want them to still go for that? Knowing what's at the top of this draft.
Yeah, knowing what's at the top of this draft, you have a generational talent. A couple generational
I was going to say
talent
potentially two.
But I'm going to be honest with you. I think this roster, as comprised right now, has the pieces where all they need to add is a couple really good veterans to start competing. And I just don't know.
I'm not as sold on this roster as is. I'll be honest with you.
I am not ready to bottom out yet again.
I agree with you.
Not yet.
I want. I've long said I want to start
because
winning. I was willing to trade this pick.
I would legit murder a person for okay, not that far away. I would do some things for Victor Wembanyama on this basketball team, but like the odds that you actually land the number one pick again,
it's slim.
Are you willing to just destroy the confidence of everyone on this team to get Victor Wembanyama?
I agree with you to an extent. Like, it is Victor Wembanyama.
Potentially isolate Cade.
I'll be honest with you. If you can guarantee me Victor Wembanyama, I will give up Cade. You're going to tell me I'm wrong?
No, I'm not. That's why.
Like, I would love and I would desperately want to have Cade and Victor Wembanyama. But if I had
Wemby at the 4, put Duren at the 5.
Yeah, but if
I had to start Sadiq at the 3,
I don't care.
Bogey,
I don't
Bogey
care.
at the 3.
If you could tell me that I could guarantee Victor Wembanyama, I would be willing to give up just about anybody on this roster to do it. Now, I'm not even going to throw that out there.
There's no such thing as guaranteeing Victor Wembanyama.
Right. I'm not going to throw that out there at all.
Until those lottery balls fall and you actually have the number one pick in your hands, there's no guarantee of Victor Wembanyama.
I will say that I think this is another situation where the young talent on this team desperately needs to see some wins, and they need to see progress. And I think this is a situation where if you're going to want to have Cade stick around long term with this organization, you need to show some progress with this with this thing. I'm not going to say, I'm not as high on you as you are with this roster as is with the talent that we have, because I'm not sold on Sadiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart. I'm not. At this point right here, right now, I'm not. And I still don't know what to think with Jaden Ivey. I like what I've seen so far, but we've got a 14-game sample size, and that's not enough for me to buy in. I do like
what I've seen in that 14.
Right, I like what I've seen, absolutely. So with that being said, what talent do we have? We have that we are bought into. We have Cade. I'm bought into that. That's not enough for me in my mind. I want to be bought into Sadiq. I want to be bought into Isaiah Stewart, and I think they have the talent and the potential. I just haven't seen the consistency there. Isaiah Stewart, in my mind, actually holds more, like a higher stock value than Saddiq Bey does right now, for me. And it's because he's shown an ability to change his game and be effective with the changing of his game. He was 2 for 2 the other night from outside.
In general,
he's shooting 30.8% from 3. He is awfully close to the 32% I asked him to do.
Yeah, and like if you look, like, because remember he had that pretty slow start from the 3-point line to start the year, but I think like in the last 10 games he's been shooting, I think, north of 40% on multiple attempts a game.
Isaiah Stewart is doing what I was asking him to do. Saddiq Bey is not.
Yeah,
I really like Saddiq Bey. I think he's the better talent of the two. But right now, Isaiah Stewart's doing things that I asked him to do and that we asked him to do, and Saddiq Bey is not.
Yeah.
So that's why I hold more stock in a higher stock in Isaiah Stewart.
To give you the actual stat, over the last 10 games, 43.8% on 3.2 attempts per game.
Love that.
Surprise.
Amazing.
But no, I am with you. It's hard. I think it's harder to find a guy like Isaiah Stewart than it is to find a guy like Saddiq Bey.
Right.
If you were to ask me who I would rather buy into if I had to pick one, it would be Isaiah Stewart.
Right. And in all honesty,
especially if his defense can come back.
Agreed. And in all honesty, so with that being said, with the talent that we have in Cade, Jaden Ivey, let's say we're bought into Isaiah Stewart, Bojan Bogdanovic, Jalen Duren, who, again, another guy that we can't really buy into yet. Can we say that team is just a couple of vets away from winning? And I'm going to tell you, no, it's not. That team needs another high-end talent there. And that's where the top end of this draft comes up.
Yeah.
However, I think the value of wins is higher at this point for the players on this roster, including Saddiq, including Isaiah, and especially Cade Cunningham. So, no, I don't want this team to bottom out. However, I want to pose a fun question to you.
Yeah.
Let's say this team does end up with a top pick. Not number 1, but number 2. Scoot Henderson's in your lap. What do you do?
I'm taking him. You kidding?
How the hell do you make it work?
You don't. Someone goes.
Who goes?
You can get a pretty good asset for one
goes?
of Cade, Ivy, or Scoot. That would be a good whoever I can go for.
Who goes?
Honestly, it's probably going to be Ivy or Scoot that goes.
So you're saying you'd be willing to trade that number 2 overall pick?
I don't think I can, because I don't think I can pair Scoot and Ivy.
No, I don't think you could either. It would have to be, because I don't think that the playmaking abilities are there. Although Jaden's kind of surprised me with his playmaking abilities as of late. But
I can pair Cade with either of them. So
yes,
that's why I'm saying it'd have to be probably Scoot or Ivy. I can probably get more for Scoot.
You absolutely could get more for Scoot. So you would be willing to trade the number 2 overall pick. What would it cost?
It would cost you a young star talent.
Give me a name. A team-controlled young star talent in my book. I want a name. A Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
Yeah, like something like that. A Jaylen Brown. That might even be low, to be honest with you.
Oh, all right.
But yeah, some along those lines. Like,
would you take Shai SGA for Scoot Henderson straight up?
I'll give him to the Raptors for Scotty. I'll give him to Cleveland for Evan Mobley.
That's intriguing. That I'll be honest with you, that is intriguing. I don't know about Scotty.
I think we need the defense on this team. We really do.
That is true. We do need the defense. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. All right, fair. Okay. All right.
I mean, what's your answer to that question?
I would probably do the same. Like it's you're talking about a potentially generational talent.
Yeah.
I would either find a way to make it work, or I would have to give one up and find a way to get some extreme assets for him.
Yeah, I mean,
you want Scoot Henderson? Come and get him. That type of situation, because it's going to cost.
Oh yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I would do it draft night. Like, I kind of want to try to have the 3-guard lineup and just see what it looks like.
I think you would get abused, to be honest with you. Because I like Cade a lot, and he's bigger, but he is not big enough to guard the threes in this league. Not the Jason Tatums of the world. Sorry.
Yeah, Killian Hayes was guarding Jason Tatum.
Yeah, and Tatum put up 40.
Quarter. No, in the fourth quarter. They switched him on to Tatum in the
and
fourth
he still put up.
No one else was able to guard him.
How many did he score in the fourth quarter?
I don't know. But
Probably a lot.
He put up like 41 points.
Yeah. I don't think you were slowing him down with anybody on this roster.
I didn't say Killian slowed him down. I just said no one else was able to guard him. So
but that's my point. Like, I don't think you can make an argument to trot Cade out as the 3 defensively and hope he can guard some of the upper echelon threes in this league. I don't think it would work. I would probably have to stagger their minutes quite a bit. Like, I'd probably bring Jaden Ivey off the bench and just have an absolutely electric scoring bench. But who knows? I would at least give it a shot, see if I can make it work. I don't think it would. I'd probably end up having to give one of the 3 up, and it probably isn't going to be Cade. It's going to be one of Scoot or Jaden Ivey, and I think you get the most value for Scoot Henderson. And honestly, if somebody came and gave me a king's ransom for Scoot Henderson on draft night, I'd take it. Mm-hmm. I would.
It's not that I don't want Scoot Henderson. Obviously, if we didn't already have 2 guards in this roster, Scoot Henderson's a guy. And also, I don't think like Scoot Henderson's type of guy that you pass up on because you have 2 guards in the roster.
Right.
But
I agree with you. It's one of those situations where you just make it work.
Yeah, the level of I just think you're talking 2 top 5 pick guards in this roster that neither of them give any reason to say they probably won't pan out. So the reason I say it is because the way I view it is I'm translating a high level talent at one position that we can't really use at this point to a high level talent in our position that we could use immediately.
Right.
But
nope, I agree with you. I would absolutely be looking at Scoot Henderson at that spot. Just because, I mean, you're talking about a potential generational talent in Scoot Henderson. So. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else to add before we close out?
Yeah, I don't know why, but this podcast just made me depressed about the Pistons. But
well, I mean, there's not a lot of reason to be optimistic here. Like this, let's be real. What are the chances this team hits our expectations of 30 wins this year?
Oh, at this rate, probably about 10%.
Slim to none. Like it's. Even if this team were to start playing basketball like we expected them to, I still don't think they hit 30 wins.
Especially if Cade is going to end up being out long term and Isaiah Stewart's missing at least 3 weeks.
Right.
So
that one hurts. Because that was a guy who was, like you were mentioning, really starting to hit his stride with that outside shot, hitting almost 44% in the last 10. Like that one hurts. Like, we know what Cade is. It's just a matter of him getting reps and getting comfortable and developing his game. Stewart was really starting to hit his stride with something new. Yeah. That hurts. I'm slowly becoming a big Isaiah Stewart fan. I'm not going to lie to you. Like I really appreciate when a player is able to transform his game for the betterment of his team. And I think he's done that more than any other player on this roster right now.
Well, I love how self-aware he is because he basically came out and said in the offseason, he goes like, I know that I'm an undersized center, so if I want to stick around this league, I need to develop a more transferable skill set like a 3-point shot. Like it was funny. I went out to the game with a buddy of mine on Saturday, and I gave him that quote because he was like, I think Stewart shoots threes, and I gave him that quote about like how he's become a little more self-aware, and he goes, you mean the guy that tried to fight LeBron is self-aware? I was like, damn, we're back to that again.
I do find it funny that like that's something that everybody has just seemingly forgotten about.
Yeah, like hopefully, and that's been his goal. Like he didn't want that to define him,
right?
At that time.
It worked in his favor, I guess. Like nobody really seems to talk about it anymore, and he's also really not shown a tendency of having temperament issues. Like he seems pretty even keeled. He seems like he's strong in his head. So, if it were a situation where, it's not a great comparison, but somebody like Rasheed Wallace who routinely had issues with his
you knew it coming
attitude.
In, you knew it going out.
Right. Right. Versus in the case with Isaiah Stewart, like he seems to be pretty level-headed. Yeah. He can get fired up, obviously, but he seems for the most part to be pretty level-headed.
But is it bad that actually, like, I don't mind him getting fired up at times? Just channel it positively.
Not that far.
But like, don't actually go attack players.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what we said. Like, that's been one of the biggest issues this year is nobody on this team looks fired up. Like, I don't think I've seen anybody get fired up at all. Jalen Duren puts on a massive dunk, and there's not even a celebration there.
Yeah.
Get excited, please, somebody.
The only one I can say I've seen get fired up, and again, it's not always, but it's Ivy. That's the only one I've seen get fired up.
And that's the nature of his game. Like his game is almost like a freight train going down a hill where if it gets going, it's electric and it's fiery, and he just get out of his way. Like he's just one of those momentum type players that if he can get a tempo going, he gets that momentum, he ain't stopping.
Yeah, and you're not allowed to play defense in the NBA now. So if he drives the lane, he's gonna get the foul every single time.
He's just got to make the damn free throws. What's he shooting from behind the line?
I do have one more thing to close it out. I almost forgot.
Yeah.
We'll make it quick. They're skimming over the rumor mill last week. We didn't end up doing a pod, so I almost forgot. Pistons' name has been thrown around in potential suitors for Grant Williams from the Celtics.
What's it going to cost me?
I didn't know he was on the market.
I didn't either, but you know what? That's just like the Celtics to trade away a player like that. Who honestly, is really important to that team.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's the exact type of player I want on this team right now.
Right. I'm curious what it would.
So I take it you'd be in.
Oh, of course. I think Grant Williams is a really excellent player. He fits in. He's exactly what this team needs. Like he's a forward that can play the wing, that can play defense. Like he's absolutely an asset this team could utilize. Like he can be a leader on the floor if you need him to. He can. I mean, he put up 19 and 10 with 4 assists against the Pistons. Yeah. Like
I wonder if it's because the Celtics might not be able to afford to give him the rookie extension.
Probably not after the contracts of Brown, Tatum, Gallinari. I don't know what his contract's like. I didn't know the Celtics had Blake Griffin. They don't have Blake Griffin.
He started. Got booed every time he got the ball against us.
Why did I not notice that? He had 7.6 boards.
I expected it to get a little bit chippy, but
all right. Well, is anybody left on the team from when he was here?
Yeah, I mean, he was here when Beef Stew was here. They didn't get along. You remember when Blake Griffin was on the Nets? Him and Beef Stew got into it constantly every time they played.
I do not remember this, but okay.
Yeah.
But in all reality, yes, I would love to see Grant Williams on this team. I just am curious what it would cost us. That's all.
So I'm reading an article right now from NESN. I don't know. I'm not familiar with them, but apparently Williams had expressed his disappointment to not be able to reach a contract extension with the Celtics. They reportedly never offered more than $50 million a year over 4 years, guaranteed.
$50 million a year?
No, sorry, $50 million over 4 years.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say,
12.5 mil guaranteed.
Not even eligible for that.
Yeah.
So they never went over 12.5 mil?
It's believed that an offer of around 18 mil annually would be too much for Boston to match. I will pay Grant Williams 18 mil.
I don't know about 18. I'd pay him 15 or 16, which at the Detroit rate, I'd probably end up having to pay him 18.
Yeah, if that guarantees they can't match and you get him.
Yeah. I mean, if they never even offered him 12 mil or 13 mil,
yeah, but that's him doing the rookie extent, trying to give him a rookie extension. Now, once it's restricted free agency time, it's put up or shut up. So maybe
rumors do say that he would likely accept an extension worth between 14 to 15 mil a year. So you'd probably have to overpay that. So around 16, 17 mil. I'd be willing to offer him about 17 mil a year, knowing that the Celtics aren't going to match that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's young enough where he still fits our timeline perfectly.
He's 23. He's the same age as Saddiq Bey.
He still fits the timeline perfectly.
He does not fill one glaring need this Pistons team has, though. Veteran leader. They still
we
desperately need a vet.
Leader. Yeah.
Which is another reason why, adding Scoot Henderson, I don't necessarily think helps the situation that much.
Yeah.
Because it's just another kindergartner in the playground. We at some point need a chaperone.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, you want Grant Williams though?
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you give up to get him in a trade?
Oh, in a trade?
Yeah. Because the Celtics are one of those teams that are more willing to trade guys like that because they don't like having assets walk for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why they have sustained success. But your first this year is a lot to ask for.
Yeah, I was going to say I was thinking like a 2024 first, 2024 first, and maybe some like. Would you do it for a 2024 first and Isaiah Livers?
Oh man, I'm starting to like Livers.
Me too. Because I knew you would say yes immediately to 2024 first.
Yeah, I probably would. I probably would.
And saying Sadiq Bey I feel like would be a little too much. So
yeah, Bey would be too much. Yeah, I probably would. In fact, I definitely would because Isaiah Livers is one of those guys that's kind of a dime a dozen. I can fill him with insert name here. And honestly,
he has made strides defensively.
He has, but Grant Williams honestly fills that hole.
Yeah.
So and does it a hell of a lot better. So I probably would say yes to that without even blinking.
Yeah.
So
and it's settled. All right, Grant Williams is a Piston.
All right, sweet. Let's call the Celtics. Let's get Troy on the phone. Let's call the Celtics. Let's make this happen. Anyways, that is going to call for this week, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Follow us on Twitter at Real Fan Report. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast, as always, at Detroit Podcast, where you can find them. We will catch you guys next week. Andrew, thank you for joining me. Have a good one, guys. This has been the Fan Reporters. Bye, fans.
For fans.
Enjoy your weekend as winter starts to hit us.
Mm-hmm. It is cold out there.
It is cold. Stay warm. Peace out.
It's so cold in the deep.